Well, I think if Toby Keith would have purchased it, since it was several years ago, there's a real good chance it would still be on Spike. So yes, I think it would be completely different, because I could almost guarantee if Toby Keith had bought it, that one of the things he wouldn't do is secretly hire Vince Russo and get them kicked off. So that one, yes. Billy Corgan, they were already in bad shape. So I can't say, I can't say that things would be different. I don't know that they would. I mean, they'd be different in some way. Better or worse, I don't know. I'm not fair to judge on that. But with, if Billy Corgan would have bought it, say, 4 years ago when they were still on Spike, I don't know. I mean, would he risk the company to hire Vince? I mean, he's not Billy Corgan was not negative on Vince Russo. Toby Keith, I could guarantee would not hire Vince Russo. So yeah, in that sense, I could say that it's probably, that things would probably have been way, way better. Plus the thing is that with Toby Keith, it's like they were still like, they were losing money and all that, but I think like Toby Keith would have hired a good team and they wouldn't have done so much bullshit. And my gut is that it would, I just don't see them, like he'd probably make mistakes. And I'm sure that Jeff would be involved with him. So it'd still be Jeff, but they would have Spike. And again, like I watch the product right now. The product really isn't that bad. I mean, in when I watch it, I mean, I do have that mentality sometimes when I watch it, that all I know is that there is a wrestling boom going on underneath WWE, and there's a style of wrestling that's getting over and everything. And this is not that. And I'm not saying there's not only one way to do it. There are many ways to do it, but I do know a way to do it that is getting more popular. And what they are doing is not that style. They're still doing the old style, and it feels very dated to me when you do the corny gimmicks, because it just, like WWE does them. And again, maybe for television you need that. Maybe you do. I don't know, because no one's the companies that I'm talking about that are getting more popular. It's not like Ring of Honor is I don't know. I mean, I don't know, how Ring of Honor is doing on television. I only know how they're doing on, as far as house shows, and they're way up. And New Japan, I kind of know how they're doing, and they are up. They are up on television. I guess per capita, when you consider how many homes get access and how many homes get pop, they're probably doing better than GFW is doing that format of the 1 or 2 matches and nothing but wrestling. So and they're on Friday night, not instead of Thursday at 8. So Impact's got a better time slot too. So I guess using that logic, I could say that what New Japan is doing is superior in 2017 than what they're doing. I guess I could say that, but still not. It's still not like New Japan's numbers are like gigantic on television. Like where I could, like if New Japan was like growing and growing and growing and like they were doing, I don't know, like let's say they started at 100,000, they got to like 400,000, just as an example. If they did that, then I would go, you know what, this is like a workable, viable formula that maybe everyone should learn from. But they haven't grown at that big of a rate, even with those absolutely phenomenal matches that they have on TV most or many weeks, if not most weeks lately. So it's not like I can say like, well, that method works for American television. I can say it works for hardcore fans. We already know that. But for American television, where you need to get tons of viewers, I don't know. I mean, the only thing that works is WWE, but they're the only ones with exposure that are, also. So it's not like, if somebody else had like the same exposure and was doing something different and was doing comparable numbers, we could say that there's another thing that would work. Everything else would be experimental. And Jeff's going to do what Jeff knows. He's going to do what he grew up on. He's going to do, what their idea of wrestling is. But when I watch it, it's like, and I grew up on it too, don't get me wrong, but I also look at like what is working today as far as getting groups hot, and that style is like it's not what's working. And when they did those shows in New York, it's not like they drew big. So I wonder if just the idea of doing super hot matches, I mean, it goes against everything that everyone's been grown up thinking, but it's a different audience now, that has a different mindset. So just because of what would and wouldn't work in 1989 or 1999, that doesn't mean, like in 2017 that it wouldn't work if you don't try it, just because you'd go like, hey, when I grew up, I know that this wouldn't work. Yeah, I know it too. I know that New Japan Pro Wrestling on American television in 1989, I don't know that it wouldn't work. Because we didn't have it then. But, yeah. But, I mean, it works to a degree, and more people talk about it than GFW. So, I don't know. That's my kind of qualm with GFW, that the promos are usually all right. Some of the storylines are kind of cute. The wrestlers aren't bad for the most part. I mean, sometimes when I watch the show, it's just kind of okay. And unfortunately, because there's so much wrestling around, okay just isn't good enough. And but the silly storylines, I don't know. Like, I watch Grado and Joseph Park, I get a kick out of it. I guess that kind of silliness is okay. But some of the other silly storylines, they don't resonate with me so well.
So, Impact.
Yeah, so I watched,
Yes.
Okay, Jim Cornette is great in his role. He's absolutely great. Like, I am so sick of authority figures and all that, so I wasn't like looking to like it, but I mean, and I thought Bruce Pritchard was not bad at all. I think he's a good talker, but Jim Cornette, it's like they've got this character, and he's really like, he plays Jim Cornette, just like this guy, but the key to the character is that it's like all the things that you find annoying about an authority figure, he's not. He's a complete baby face. He doesn't get hoodwinked like the old Jim Cornette that Russo wrote for, where it's like he's, I mean, this guy's nobody's fool. The whole gimmick is like when he was with Eli Drake, he did a segment with Eli Drake where he's outsmarting the wrestlers. And some people would go like, oh, God, he's outsmarting the world champion. But, it's like the gimmick of Jim Cornette, he gave like and he's on the show a lot. He came in, he gave a pep talk, and it was just like, you guys are going to have a chance to be worldwide stars because Anthem's going to get this TV and all over the world, but you're going to have to work for it. Any of you guys who are like just messing around or trying to get an easy paycheck, you're going to be gone. And he's just doing this thing, and just like a Paul Heyman speech type of a thing. And I mean, it's all scripted, but he's just doing it, and it's like the one thing about Impact right now is that it's actually reminds me of the good days of Memphis, certain aspects of Impact, not everything, but in the sense that the behavior of like Cornette is like, if you know Jim Cornette, it's how he would be, and it's not, I mean, it's scripted, of course, it's fake, but it's like realistic fake, which is actually my favorite type of wrestling is realistic fake, where it's like, it isn't real, but it's plausible. And, there's a little silliness, but not that much. And then the other one was the Dan Lambert thing, which, again, I think everyone that probably heard about this is going like, oh, God, But there was the big argument at the beginning of the show with Dan Lambert and Jeff Jarrett. And, I mean, it's a legitimate argument. It's like they weren't, like, doing fake shit. It's like, Jeff Jarrett and Dan Lambert are arguing over Bobby Lashley. And Dan Lambert's thing is like, he shouldn't be doing pro wrestling. I mean, the whole thing is they're the anti-pro wrestling group. He shouldn't be doing pro wrestling. He should be fighting. And, that's which is what your MMA manager should say, right? And Jeff's talking about, well, I'm paying, you're not paying him. I'm paying him more than you're paying him. And like Dan Lambert shoots back and goes, do you think that, he could make more money in pro wrestling than he can make in fighting? Do you really believe that? And, they're just yelling back and forth. And then they come back and they're both sorry, because it's like, because that's what you do with real businessmen. You lose your temper and then you're both sorry and you put up a front. And then obviously as the tapings go by, and I guess there's a lot of vignettes that were taped that, did not air in front of the people that I heard were like really good. I heard a lot of praise for Dan Lambert. The people boo him like crazy. I heard that, and some people it's like, is it good heat or bad heat? I don't know. I wasn't there watching it, but I talked to somebody who was there. And they said that, like, what was amazing is this guy's never been around wrestling. I mean, he's a big fan, but he's never been around wrestling. And these people are booing him so loud, and he doesn't lose his train of thought. And he does his promo, and he, does all that. And he's doing the, he morphs into this character who hates pro wrestling. So there's that. And then Taryn Terell, I mean, it's like I don't know what she did, but she sure rebelled against her religion because she quit for religious reasons. And oh my God, just I don't even know what to say about Taryn Terell, but it's an interesting character there. Her promos are not nearly as good as Dan Lambert's and Jeff Jarrett's and Jim Cornette's and Cornette and Conan had a thing. It's Johnny Mundo, from what I understand, is doing, or Johnny Impact. Johnny Impact is like the worst name because it's like the spoof on the Johnny.
Better than Johnny GFW.
Yeah. Why didn't you just? I don't know. But
low praise.
Yeah, but from what I hear, he's doing really, really good, which doesn't surprise me. I watched Johnny Mundo and Rey Mysterio on Lucha Underground this week, and what a hell of a match they had. I mean, freaking awesome match. I mean, terrible finish, which is with Dario Cueto doing the Vince McMahon and screwing Ray out of the championship, and it's it's like.
Did you watch Prince Puma Phoenix the week before?
Yes, that match was fantastic.
That was awesome.
Yeah, I sure did.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
The whole tournament, actually, there were a couple of stupid things in the tournament, but like overall, that was a great tournament.
Yeah, I didn't see a lot of it, but I saw some of it. I watched some of the What Culture. I'm going to watch it all tomorrow. Got
some notes on the apparently former Global Force Wrestling, formerly Impact, now back to Impact again.
Oh, God.
Impact announced today the Aberdeen Pavilion would be hosting the Bound for Glory pay-per-view, Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, on November 5th. Television tapings also set at that venue November 6th through 10. When the word got out that the tapings were being moved to Canada, a number of people in wrestling inquired about the status of Jim Cornette, who's been all over the recent television shows as the head of authority for the promotion. Cornette has not been allowed into Canada for years. He was turned away at the border in 2010 when they ran his record, which included a number of assaults, mostly stemming from incidents involving fights with fans who attacked him while he was a manager at matches in the 80s.
Bobby, get him off me!
He had been going to Canada for years, including his WWF run, with no incident prior to 2010. When he worked for ROH, he never attended the shows in Toronto. Because of that, Cornette will not be at the next set of tapings and is done with the promotion, which he said there's no heat over. It's just a matter of circumstances. He's going to go into more detail on this on his podcast on Thursday. GFW confirmed being done yesterday, as Cornette did today. He talked about coming to GFW after being called in August by Jeff Jarrett. The agreement was just to work one set of TV tapings to facilitate a few storylines, which were the stripping of the championship from Alberto El Patron and the gauntlet match, the on-screen firing of Bruce Pritchard so he could return as a heel manager, and to try to make Anthem Sports Entertainment babyfaces to the wrestling fans. It's going to take more than one man to do that. After the tapings, he and Jarrett agreed he would come back for Bound for Glory, and for a few days of the next tapings in November. Cornette didn't know his status with Jarrett now that the company removed Jeff Jarrett, and the company's creative, headed by Scott D'Amore and Sanjay Dutt, is said to be more focused on in-ring action and less on authority angles. So there you go. Ottawa, Ontario, Canada for Bound for Glory. No Jim Cornette. Back in a moment with more Wrestling Observer Live. The GFW Impact situation. They've removed Global Force from all of their announcements. It appears that with Jarrett gone, they're not anticipating him coming back. The deal to merge apparently was not finalized.
It was not finalized.
Separating themselves from GFW, which means all those new belts they ordered. Don't know what the hell they're going to do with those things.
But, why do they need to rebrand again?
Well, I think they need to rebrand because I don't think it's a good idea to go back to TNA.
Well, no, I would never do that at this point. And I think that they wanted to get out of Orlando. And I get that. It's like they want to start something fresh. And as long as they're in Orlando, it still looks like it's TNA wrestling. So they're going to go to Ottawa, and they're going to give it a different look.
One of the problems, though, with that rebrand, though, is that I understand that the initials TNA were stupid from day one, okay?
Well, it doesn't matter. If they had great wrestling, it still would have worked.
I know, but here's my point. If you're going to rebrand because you're trying to get rid of the TNA initials, is there anybody that doesn't associate Impact with TNA?
No.
Like, what's the point? If you're not going to get rid of the Impact name, why even bother getting rid of the TNA name?
You think way more logically than most people when it comes to that stuff, because I've spent so many years hearing people talk about they should rebrand it to Impact, and my thought was, what does it matter? It's the same thing in the people's mind. It's TNA has a negative reaction, so does Impact. Equally, they're synonymous with each other.
Yes.
So you get rid of TNA and you just call it Impact to everyone else except the people who were all weirded out over the TNA name. Which, granted, it was, I was never in favor of the name, but who the fuck cares? Seriously, it's like people who go like, oh, don't you think New Japan Pro Wrestling should change their name now that they're promoting outside Japan? It's like, no.
Not at all.
It's like, what's in a name? What does it matter? It's like when WWF changed to WWE. It's like, it didn't matter. I know people were all upset about that. It's like, it's the same thing. Everyone knows it's the same thing. It doesn't matter. And business-wise for WWF, it made no difference. They lost a court fight, and they had to change an initial. So what? It's like, it's the product that matters. And it's like, they want to rebrand. You're right, though. But whatever you call it, but I just hate, there's no, it just feels so scattershot now. Every 3 weeks there's another change and there's another rebrand, and now they're gonna move to Canada, which may be for the better. I always liked them when they were out of Orlando more than when they were in Orlando anyway. So maybe this is gonna be a big, I don't say a big success, but maybe it's gonna be a positive. Obviously in the doing it, they lost Jim Cornette, who was, unfortunately, Jim Cornette was the best thing on the recent TVs. He was tremendous. And now he's gone because he can't go to Canada, or he doesn't want to go to Canada, whatever it is. He's done with the company, and they're going to be doing a marathon taping in November, and so the biggest thing was this, Jim Cornette and Dan Lambert and Bobby Lashley stuff, which had a lot of vibe of realism to it, and they're still doing the angle, but just not with Jim Cornette and not with Jeff Jarrett. So I don't know who they're going to do the angle with next. Who's left? Scott D'Amore? Maybe. I don't know.
Could be.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they're going to Canada. Cornette is gone. Any other notes? Impact TV notes?
Yeah, this week's show was built around the American Top Team thing, and so Moose and Stephan Bonnar went to ATT. This was weird. It's actually like a pretty cool segment, but at the same time, it's like kind of a whacked segment. So they go there, and it's like late at night, and they come in, and there's a woman at the reception desk, and they go, is Bobby Lashley here? It's like, no, he already went home. Is King Mo here? No, he already went home. Is Dan Lambert here? No, he's not here. Now, keep in mind that they came in. It's the middle of the night. There's nobody in the parking lot. The door is opened. It's not locked. There's a receptionist, but there's nobody else in the gym. And these guys entered the gym holding lead pipes. And the receptionist is going like, oh, what can I do for you? Oh, we're going to leave a message. So they go in there, and they're busting stuff up with lead pipes. They're breaking the trophy case. They're destroying the merchandise.
And sounds like an expensive angle.
Yeah, and the receptionist is just like not there. There's no one's calling the cops or anything. And then they leave. The receptionist is still there, and she's going like, and they write down like a message for Bobby Lashley. So they left. So it was interesting. So anyway, that's building up the Bobby Lashley and King Mo against Bonnar and Moose tag team match for Bound for Glory. But the whole angle is it's been a really good angle. And so that was this week's version. The week before, Moose had gone to American Top Team to confront Lashley. Because here's the story. The story is that Bobby Lashley quit professional wrestling to go back to MMA, even though he didn't really. And so in his last match, which was a couple weeks ago on their TV, he wrestled Moose. Or he was supposed to wrestle Moose. And it ended up where all the ATT guys and Bobby Lashley, they all beat up Moose. So Moose is mad because he wants his revenge, but Bobby is done with pro wrestling, so he can't challenge him to a match. So he went to ATT to challenge him to a fight, and then King Mo sucker punched him, and then a whole bunch of guys like put the boots to Moose inside an MMA cage, and then Bobby Lashley like threw him out of the building. So that's when he called up his buddy, his mystery partner, Stephan Bonnar, and Bonnar shows up. The one thing about Bonnar is that like his eyes and just the way he like delivers lines, that's very, for a guy, whenever you have a novice wrestler doing wrestling, it's always a risk, but he pulled this off really well.
Whose idea was this?
I guarantee it wasn't mine.
Dude.
At no point did you ever hear me say, hey, Brian, it's important we watch an Impact show again.
It is November 5, 2017, figure4online.com /wrestlingobserver.com. We're here to talk the Impact Wrestling Bound for Glory pay-per-view here. Which, by the way, I'd like to note is their version of WrestleMania.
Yes. This is supposed to be their biggest and best show of the year.
Yeah, this is not just like a random show in November.
No.
This is Bound for Glory. Now, we should start off by saying that this was not the worst show I've ever seen. I've seen plenty of terrible shows. Like, if you go back to 2009, 10, 11, like, dear God, Impact was, like, far worse every single solitary week.
Sure.
Problem with this show was there was just a bunch of matches. And granted, I realize I don't watch the TV, so I'm not even complaining about the storylines. Like, storylines were fine. There was nothing wrong with the stories, okay? But there's no disrespect to anybody, but this is not the strongest roster of wrestlers on the planet, okay? There are some good wrestlers. Impact has some good wrestlers, but they also have a lot of green wrestlers. They have a lot of wrestlers who probably shouldn't be put in the position they're put in. There were so many sloppy matches on this show. The show was boring. And at the end of the day, it really struck me when the show was over. Like, they can change the name. They can get rid of Dixie. They can get rid of Russo. They can just get rid of Jarrett. It's still TNA at the end of the day. It's a curse.
There was so much of this that felt so familiar.
It was so familiar. Like, all I hear is, oh, the show is so much better. And granted, yeah, if you compare it to the depths that this company achieved a few years ago, yeah, it's better. But, man, going into this expecting, like, a great show or anything like that, I mean, it's not that bad, okay, everybody? Like, I realize I'm really depressed right now. That show just left me so defeated when it was over. Like, it wasn't that bad, okay? It wasn't that bad. It's not like I'm going to call my cable company like I did in the past and say, can I please have my money back? This show was so bad.
I'm not going to call for anyone to be fired and or killed.
No, nothing like that. But it's just... I mean, part of the problem is I watched the top 4 matches on the New Japan show today, which, like, none of them were even in the top 10 of best New Japan matches of the year, but they were still miles miles beyond anything here on this show.
We'll get into it in detail, but let's just go back over some of this and see how this was every Impact pay-per-view of the past 15 years. Had a bunch of small guys taking turns doing flips. Had a match where you couldn't pay attention because they were focusing on what was going on in the crowd.
By design.
By design. Had a long, boring, rambling promo. Had a comedy/hardcore match with a bunch of run-ins, none of which made any sense. And to be fair, we don't watch TV. Maybe if they did, if we did, they would. We got a Team USA versus Team Mexico match, where the story was, can our team get along with each other? We had LAX, not the LAX I know, against some other guys, and new faces appearing that were not impressive to the live crowd. Had a random women's three-way with Gail Kim. That's another TNA constant, although I guess not anymore. We had a wacky cage match where guys didn't really know what they were doing, and there was lots of interference. And we had a main event, which ended in a screw job finish. This was every TNA pay-per-view ever.
You know, yesterday I went to, and you did as well, just at a different time. We went over to Buddy's because his wife flew in Rip Rogers to do a seminar for all of the guys.
That's right.
All of Buddy's students. And I know that maybe some people listening to this aren't big fans of Rip Rogers. I know I'll hear he's just old and bitter and all this and that. But they started at 10 a.m. and I was getting ready to leave at 6 p.m. They had been going nonstop for 8 hours. And they were basically trying to figure out, should we just end it now or should we go longer? And so Shauna, Buddy's wife, took a show of hands, you know, who wants to stay, who's got to go, and basically everybody stayed. And she made a comment. She basically said, you guys don't understand the brain that you have sitting here right now. Like, it's not going to be here forever.
No.
Buddy Wade has passed away. Rip is, I don't know, 15, 20 years older. I mean, it was kind of depressing, actually, when she said it. I was like, man, what's Rip thinking right here? Like, he's about to die? But it's true. Like, that guy has got an unbelievable brain for pro wrestling. He may have an abrasive edge to him. I think that's a pleasant way to say it. An abrasive edge to him. He's certainly not going to sugarcoat anything. He's going to yell at you.
That's true.
He's going to bury you. But at the end of the day, what he's trying to do is he's trying to preserve some semblance of, I don't know.
He wants you to be a better you.
He wants you to be a better wrestler.
So that you can make wrestling better.
He wants you to understand wrestling. So no matter what kind of style you do or where you work, you'll be better doing it.
Yes.
And listen, I've been wrestling for a long time. I've been covering wrestling for a long time. I've been yelled at 8 million times by Buddy in car rides after matches. I've had things hammered into my head by all sorts of different people over the last, God only knows, 20, 25 years. Still yesterday, sitting there at that seminar, there were things that Rip said. I was like, God, I never thought about that before. But like, he's absolutely right.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I want him to come back all the time and just sit there and listen to him yell at everybody as they do their matches. And everybody is going to be better as a result of this seminar. All I could think watching this show was, why did he fly home today? Why couldn't I bring him over here to watch this pay-per-view with me? I can only imagine. Like, God, if I could just mic him up.
The profanity would have peeled the paint off the walls.
Wire him up for this show. That may have been part of the problem with this show, by the way. But anyway, let's get into it here.
I suppose we shall get into it. Trevor Lee versus Sanjay Dutt versus Matt Sydal versus P.D. Williams versus Garza Jr. versus Desmond Xavier in the Random Small Men Doing Random Flips championship match.
I will say one thing positive right off the bat, however. This is actually a big positive. I love the fact that Impact Wrestling has an X division, which of course over the years they've changed. It used to be about little guys, then it became about No Limits, and like Samoa Joe's an X division wrestler. It seems to be back to small guys now. It's like they're a cruiserweight division. Look at what they allow these guys to do compared to 205 Live.
Oh, sure.
At least they let these fucking guys go out there and do every crazy spot in the book. I liked this.
This is my favorite thing on the show.
It was the best thing on the show.
Plus, they had a hometown hero here in P.D. Williams, representing all of Canada. The crowd really, really wanted to see him and see him do well, so they kept him on the apron forever. Then he kept him, when he was in the ring, he didn't do much forever. Then he started hitting all those big moves at the end, and everyone went nuts.
Now, there was one thing that I absolutely hated about this match, and that is that Garza Jr. had a right shoulder injury.
Yes.
And I'm fucking talking, his shoulder was so taped up, and he couldn't even lift his arm.
I legit thought he was wrestling with his arm in a sling for several minutes.
He may have a torn rotator cuff. I don't know what the injury is, but he could barely even move his arm. And what it is it's 2017, and so guys are like, man, I don't want to miss this booking. I don't want to let down the fans. So even though I can't even move my fucking arm, I'm going to get in the ring and I'm going to do this match anyway. All it did was make a farce of this match. It was preposterous. This guy in here working a match and being competitive with all these other guys with one arm. And then, of course, they do the spot at some point where, I think it was Trevor Lee. Trevor Lee puts a Kimura on Garza Jr.'s, torn rotator cuff arm.
Yeah.
Does Garza Jr. submit?
No.
Fuck no, he lays there, and he eventually escapes. And I'm like, you could not have made Trevor Lee look like a bigger fucking geek than to be unable to submit a guy with a torn rotator cuff with a fucking locked-on Kimura. It was ridiculous. Outside of that, a lot of great flying, a lot of great cool moves. It was fun. I mean, there was nothing emotionally engaging about it, really.
No, I don't
But
think
hey, that's what people pay for in these matches.
I don't think I remember too much about this. They did do some spots because Lee was the champion who'd called out everybody, so they did some 5-on-1 spots early that were fun. But then at the end, it all came around. PD finally hit the Canadian Destroyer. Everyone cheered, but Lee shoved him out of the ring and stole the pin to retain.
Every finish of every multi-man match ever.
It was as I wrote here, every crazy X Division 6-way you ever saw, but a fun enough opener.
Sure. This was a thumbs up.
It was.
I'd give this 3.25 stars.
I don't want to go that high, but I went 3.25. 3.25.
That's what I said, 3.25.
I think it's 3.75.
No, 3.25.
My bad.
Jesus, Vinny. Don't get these people on the internet freaking out.
I can only imagine the
of star ratings for this Impact.
Spreadsheets that have been created and erased based on the last 30 seconds of audio. Earlier today, Eli Drake and Crists Adonis arrived at the building. Looked like two dudes who had just gone to the mall and blown a week's paycheck at Abercrombie and Fitch. Tyson Dukes versus Taiji Ishimori. I don't know what to tell you about this match, folks. Here's everything I wrote down about it. Ishimori hit a 450 for the win. And then before that, they did a great job getting the biggest reaction possible out of a back suplex. That's all I can tell you, because they are focusing on Laurel Van Ness.
I was so amazed. You have Taiji Ishimori and Tyson Dukes, who, on paper, should be able to go out there and have a very, very good match. And instead, it's all about Laurel Van Ness in the crowd, acting drunk, distracting the crowd, hugging people, sitting on their laps. They're just fixated on her. And these dudes are in the ring just, I don't even know what they were doing.
I literally don't know what I can't tell you.
No, we saw like 10% of the match. And then Ishimori won with a 450. Like, what?
I did not give this a rating because I do not feel qualified to have an opinion on it because I didn't see it. Johnny Impact arrived at the building, walking alone in the rain. Grado was warming up backstage when Abyss showed up to laugh at him. Grado kept calling him Joseph, said we don't need to do this. Abyss says there's no Joseph here, you're going to be deported. Grado said he needed his visa to wrestle all over the world, and Abyss should expect a different Grado, and Abyss was befuddled.
You know, I don't want to complain too much because, I mean, there was a lot going on in the house. My baby's running all over, but... So, Impact has this thing they do. I guess it's like a modern thing from modern TV shows where, like, the camera's always got to be shaking. There's no such thing as a tripod in Impact. And you got to have all of the ambient noise and the background noise. Everybody's badly mic'd. I guess so you, as a viewer, feel like it's real, even though it's horseshit. It's a pro wrestling show. It's not real.
I'm watching a grown man in a mask.
Yeah.
I know it's not real.
So, I could not understand a goddamn thing Grado said early. Like, I couldn't hear a word he said. He's mumbling. It's echoing throughout the building. Like, I caught about half of what Abyss said, and I caught, I think, most of what Grado said at the end. But, like, you're a television company. I want to hear what the guys have to say. That's your role as an audio guy. And it got worse later on.
I was going to say.
Apparently they had like a mic, and they had no compressor, no limiter. And so anytime somebody raised their voice, it peaked. And there's just this incessant screeching for every
White
single
noise and static.
backstage interview. It's driving me nuts.
Alberto came out. No reference from Alberto or the announcers about anything that's happened in his life in the past year. All he said was, I showed up in this company in January. Everyone said in my face it was going great. But the cowards and the backstabbers, they'll believe the rumors instead of reading the reports. And I thought, okay, what's happening? Says they had suspended him and stopped paying him and taken his championship. Then he wanted to rant about his children, naming them. He said nobody had tried to call him or text him or come by his house to see if he was okay. So I was catching like a third of what he was talking about, charitably.
Dude, I caught it all.
But that was a third more than the people of Canada watching the show, because they didn't have any fucking idea what he was talking about, and more importantly, they did not care.
Well, what he was talking about was all of the reports that... You remember when him and Paige were in the airport?
Yeah.
And like there was the arrest or whatever, and he... Like, first everybody thought that he attacked her or something like that, but then the police report said that she attacked him. I mean, I will say one thing. They have so few people buying the show, and they're so hardcore, that I would guess that most of them did know what he was talking about. But what was bizarre was, I'm pretty sure he's supposed to be a heel. But he's out here doing this promo, and everybody's turning on Impact. And they're cheering for him. And so, he literally did his whole speech about, you know, they suspended me, they stopped paying me, they took my title away. And so the fans started cheering him, and so he started over again. I think he thought, if I say it a second time, like, they'll get it this time. So he did the first half of his promo twice.
Repeat himself.
Yeah.
So he said Borash never called or texted, and he went up to intimidate him, and Borash apologized, and Alberto said, shake my hand, and Borash did, and El Patron says, I'm here to make a statement. I'm going to start with you, but maybe not. And he went away.
Yeah, they built it up forever like he was going to beat up Borash, and then finally goes, maybe not. Like, that was 10 minutes of my life.
Oh, more than that.
What is happening here?
This is closer to 15. Grado versus Abyss in a Monsters Ball match.
And can I add, by the way, Jeremy Borash, babyface announcer. This guy is so blatantly trying to be a heel. I mean, listen, everybody knows he was, I don't know what their current status is, but together with Paige, right? Sit here talking about his kids. Okay, so as fans, we must know he left his family for her.
I guess.
Right?
I'm sure.
The math. He has 3 kids. They aren't from Paige. She's with Paige.
She is too young.
He left his family for her.
Okay, yes.
Fucking, he's over there threatening babyface announcer Jeremy Borash, and the fans start chanting for a table.
Yes.
They're like, put this fucking announcer through a table. It's like, they aren't getting it. They aren't getting this heel turn right here.
Grado and Abyss in a Monsters Ball match. I will say the video package for this did a great job of explaining the issues between these two men.
Hey, the video packages on this show up and down were great. They did a very good job on all of the video packages. I will say that.
So, Joseph, for those of you who don't watch, Joseph Park is Grado's agent, I guess. But they had a falling out, and so Joseph booked Grado versus his brother Abyss in a Monsters Ball match, and Grado must win to get the possession of his visa so he can keep wrestling in North America. So they're doing this match, and it's just immediately kicks to the balls, weapon shots, staple to the head, cheese grater to the nuts, trash can to the head. Grado goes off the top rope through barbed wire on the floor.
Oh, God. God bless Grado.
Grado or Grado?
I don't know.
If I'm saying it wrong, let me know.
I think it's Grado.
Okay, I'll say Grado then.
He's a very, very talented guy in a lot of ways. He's very funny. He's very charismatic. He is one of the most uncoordinated people I've ever seen in professional wrestling.
That was evident by the end of this match, too.
He could not get on the top rope.
No, he could not climb.
He did this At least 2 times. There may have been more. He can get to the second rope, but to get from the second rope to the top rope is like the battle of a lifetime. The battle of a lifetime.
Yeah.
It was...
So they kept on going.
They hit each other with stuff. Did we mention that?
We had Grado during his comeback in a weapons-filled blood feud with literally his global citizenship at stake. He does comedy spots where he imitates Dusty Rhodes and New Jack. We had Abyss bumping onto a barbed wire board. This was so important they had to cut to Van Ness in the crowd again. Although there was a point to that, because eventually she hit the ring, she nutshots Grado, hits a kill switch. Crowd had no idea what to make of this. Nor did I, frankly. Lights go out. When they come back on, Rosemary is in the ring. So Rosemary attacks Van Ness. She has a stare down with Abyss. He goes to kill her. She talks him out of it, but then she accidentally spits mist in his face. Now he's blind. He chokeslams her into thumbtacks. This is already a bad match and a mess, and I'm confused. And then Grado hits a schoolboy, and the ref counts 2, and the bell rings. And the wrestlers look at each other, and the ref jumps up and waves it off. No, I said 2, motherfucker. The announcers had no idea what was going on. I had no idea what was going on. So Abyss goes for, I guess, a choke slam. They fucked it up like 3 times and gave up.
It was supposed to be a black hole slam onto the board. There's never been anybody in the world, I'm including you watching TNA, nobody has ever wanted to do anything less than Grado taking this bump onto the barbed wire board.
Yeah.
They fucked it up over and over and over again. And finally, Abyss gets him up and spins him barely. And the problem is, let me tell you something as a pro wrestler. You just gotta go up. Because if you try to not, it's gonna end up worse. If you try to avoid taking the bump, something's gonna get fucked up. He did not want to go for this black hole slam through the table, and finally Abyss spun him around and just fucking... He fell on him with every ounce of his weight onto the barbed wire board and fucking nearly killed the guy. I was like, I hope you learned a lesson here, Grado. First off, don't do these bullshit matches. And second, like, if you don't want to take the bump, then you need to go over it before the match and not agree to do it and then not want to do it in the heat of the moment.
So when this was said and done, I understood the issue between the 2 men, but I didn't know who I was supposed to cheer for or who I was supposed to boo. I had no idea what the relationships with the women were with each other or with either guy. So this led me only to enjoy the wrestling, and the wrestling fucking sucked.
It was really horrible.
I went -2 stars on that one.
Man, I don't know if I can argue that. It was very, very bad. Speaking of very, very bad...
I'll let you have the floor.
Okay, what was worse? That Monsters Ball match or just Pagano?
Oh, before we even get to that... Before that, we had the promo with Team Impact. This is the one that was 80% static.
Oh, yes. There was a lot of yelling and no limiter.
Mostly static that hurt my ears. That is not a metaphor. That's literally what happened. Those are the words I put down on page. I was able to establish that James Storm and Eddie Edwards were willing to work together, but EC3 was maybe not. Now then, Team Impact versus Team AAA. That would be Edwards, Storm, and EC3 versus, according to the ring announcer here, Pagano, El Hijo del Fantasmo, and Texano Jr.
Phantasmo?
That may be my fault. But Texano is his.
Texano.
Yes.
Yes. So this Pagano sucks. God bless the guy. He's fucking terrible. Now, to his credit, apparently he's not the worst clown. I've been informed that Dave the Clown is worse than Pagano. So I've got a series of videos here I'm going to watch later.
Okay.
I have to confirm this. I'm skeptical as possible, but I hear his name is Dave the Clown, so I'm thinking it is possible.
Dave the Clown sounds like a guy who'd be a worse wrestler than Pagano the Clown.
Oh my God.
Before we even get into Pagano, so the story of this match is, can these guys get along? There's a way to do that story in a 6-man tag match. There's not a way to do that story in a 6-man tag match that goes like 4 minutes. So we had 2 minutes heat on Eddie, and he crawled over and tagged Storm. 2 minutes heat on Storm, and he crawls over and tags Ethan, and now Ethan hits the ring and runs wild.
That was the whole thing, though. Like, Ethan wouldn't take a tag at the beginning of the match. Then he wouldn't take the first hot tag.
Yeah.
But then he got it. Why?
All in a span of like 4
What
minutes.
in the hell happened?
I don't know.
That made him decide, after twice not taking the tag, to finally take it.
I don't know. So we've established this is our second hot tag of the six-man tag in like 5 or 6 minutes. And Ethan's running wild, and everyone starts doing a parade of big moves. Fine. So it starts with a parade of dives. Eddie did a dive on 2 dudes. One of whom was his own partner. I think it was Pagano and James Storm in the ring. It must have been, because Eddie dove on to Ethan. So it was Pagano and James Storm in the ring. And this crowd was not into the show for the most part, just in general. But they were around. You could tell there were living people in there. They were having conversations and breathing and occasionally shouting boring or whatever. When it came down to Pagano and James Storm in the ring one-on-one, he was so bad, the room went quiet. No one could believe what they were seeing. There was no sign anyone was cheering or talking or breathing. They couldn't fathom the horror show that was going on before them. So this spread to everyone else. EC3 and Tejano did something on the ropes, and I said, "What was that?" And you said, "Ethan snapped Tejano's neck." And I thought, okay, it kind of looked like that. But then Ethan went down and Tejano climbed the top rope.
Yeah, that was bizarre.
What's happening?
I could have sworn that Ethan snapped his neck, but then Ethan sold it.
We had another parade of finishers. Phantasma hit Eddie with a wheelbarrow, tombstone on the apron. And then Ethan and Storm, after all this, decide, we are friends now. And Storm pinned Pagano with a super kick.
Yeah, Ethan tagged him in and said, "Take his fucking head off."
Yeah.
Storm super kicked Pagano, got the pin.
And even after the match...
I will say this was okay. Barely. But it was
in the end, all in all, because they did some cool stuff.
Yeah.
I'm glossing over that.
It was all right.
There was some cool stuff in here, too. The few bad spots were very, very, very bad.
Yes.
And the whole thing was very rushed and made the story pretty
The
pointless.
bad stuff was more memorable than how okay it was.
Right.
Yes.
Yes. And even at the end, EC3 gets some beers to share with his buddies. And the way it's done, I'm like, okay, so the payoff of this is going to be Storm's going to turn around and Ethan's going to break a bottle over his head. Nope. They're all just friends now.
Well, the other thing is,
there was no payoff for them not getting along.
They had a big spot where, I guess it was Phantasma gave Eddie a cradle pile driver on the apron, and Borash is screaming that we need medics out here. And this was all a setup for Eddie challenging him to a match for the GHC title on the TV tapings. It'll be on the Impact show on Thursday. But then, when the match is over, Eddie's fine. You're drinking beer with everybody.
Well, the beer made it better.
I was like, what?
There's a lot of wrestlers who've healed a lot of injuries with beer.
That is true, actually.
Adonis and Drake got a backstage promo. It was not as bad or as staticky as that other promo we talked about, but the same problem was going on. Eli Drake has some, like, the worst catchphrases I've ever heard. They're literally dummy and yeah. But it's actually, actual promos are pretty good.
He's a pretty good promo.
Yeah.
He's not a bad wrestler either. He's just Eli Drake, and he's the champion.
We'll get to that. OVE versus LAX in a street fight. A 5150 street fight, I should say.
OVE.
OVE, they've been around forever.
Yeah, they're the Crists we
David-
used to talk about in the early days of TNA. We could figure out who the fuck are the Crists.
They were ROH2. Irish Airborne was the name for a long time.
Irish Airborne, that's right.
They are now OVE, which stands for Ohio versus everything.
Ohio.
Yep.
This is an international company. We've got Ohio versus everything. It does not have a ring to it.
No.
It does not roll off the tongue. Even New Japan is like, Japan's a whole country.
Conan at one point in the pre-match video called them Ohio Tweakers, which would be a much better name. LAX is 2 dudes named Ortiz and Santana. I don't know anything about them. I tried to look them up. When you load the LAX page, it has Ortiz and Santana as links, but if you click them, it just redirects back to that same page. I'm not making that up. So we had a powerbomb off the ramp through a table 2 minutes in. We had fans chanting they couldn't see shit.
That was funny because when they chanted it, it was when Dave...
The Clown or Dave Crist?
Dave Crist is his name. He looks like a guy. Dave gets laid on a table, and Santana climbs up onto the lighting rig. He's fucking 20 feet above the floor on a goddamn lighting rig, and that's when the fans decide they can't see shit? I was like, you're blind then. How could you not see that?
Well,
That's like going outside and saying, I can't see the sky.
I watched a lot of horrible New Jack matches in ECW, and he always jumped off a high thing, often at great peril to his own life and those around him. And sometimes he was thrown off balconies to the peril of his own life. But you know what? He always did the big balcony dive at the end. These guys did the 20-foot dive 2 minutes in and then just kept on going.
That's no exaggeration, by the way. This started with a running powerbomb off the ramp through a table and a dive off a lighting rig. And he just squashed Dave.
Poor Dave.
Yeah, poor Dave.
We had Ortiz getting hit in the head with a chair twice in 2017. The best part of this whole match, and by best I mean worst, but it made me laugh. Jake Crist sets up 4 chairs in the ring and goes to do a superplex, but he overshoots his target. He superplexed himself through 4 chairs.
It was so amazing. Like, there are...
Had to be what he was trying to do.
4 fucking chairs, dude. No, it's not, because the other guy had to still sell the superplex, even though he got off easy. It was mind-blowing.
His aim was so bad.
He superplexed himself through 4 tables.
Did he think he could jump like Ricochet?
No,
he jumped too
apparently
far.
he thought he would just fall down.
I got it backwards, yeah.
Yeah.
Did he? I don't know. I laughed hysterically at this guy breaking his back. Guys fell on chairs a bunch. Stuff happened. Crowd was saying it was awesome. I did not think so. And then Sami Callihan emerged. Crowd didn't know who he was. Crowd didn't care who he was. Announcer said, hey, it's Sami Callihan. No reference. This guy's been all over the world. This guy's been in Lucha Underground. This guy's been in fucking NXT. No, just, hey, it's Sami Callihan. He knows they're from Ohio. He's family. That's what they said. He hit a pile driver through a table. OVE got the pin. And their catchphrase is, thumbs up, thumbs down. I was not impressed by this tag match.
Well, what made me sad was I was hoping that Sami Callihan was going to debut in New Japan today, actually. But instead, Jay White was Switchblade, and Sami Callihan is now teaming with Irish Airborne.
That is a downgrade to being in New Japan.
It's pretty sad. Match was okay. It had its moments.
I guess.
It had its moments.
They worked hard. I'll say that.
They worked their asses off. Suplexing themselves through fucking chairs.
Jumping off high things.
Yeah.
Way to go, guys. Sienna versus Allie versus Gail Kim. So the gimmick is this is Gail's retirement match. And it's 10 years ago, she won the first Knockouts Championship at Bound for Glory. And now she wants to win it again at Bound for Glory and then take it into retirement.
You know, I don't want to be mean or anything like that, but this fucking promo by Allie. She's a babyface. And she does this promo, and it was the whiniest promo of 2017. In any company, anywhere in the world. It was so whiny.
I came away with the impression she was a Canadian Bailey.
That is the idea.
Yeah.
But Bailey never came off whiny.
No.
She was practically in tears. She was so whiny. It was not a good look. Well, I mean, it was a good look, but...
You know, it's a great look. So they're doing this match. God bless Gail Kim and God bless these other women. This wasn't very good.
It's very, very... There's a problem with the whole show. It was very, very sloppy. Virtually every single match was sloppy.
I like when Sienna used a double camel clutch. So she had one arm of each woman, and they still couldn't find a way to escape this.
I think she was pulling the other 2 arms, so they were all tied up like a nudo.
Trying to figure this out, and then Josh says, well, she is an MMA expert. Okay, then. She learned the double camel clutch and probably trained with American
all those handicap MMA matches. That's where she learned it.
Yeah. So Gail and Allie are the baby faces. Sienna was the heel. So they spent a lot of time double teaming her or putting her on the floor so they could wrestle each other and just repeating that pattern. Allie, when it was just her and Gail alone in the ring, you could see she's really not very good. God bless the girl. I was struggling to stay asleep by the end of this.
Stay asleep.
Or stay awake. I wanted to fall asleep. Gail, I think, may have been asleep. She was lying in the corner doing nothing for a long time. Allie gets dropped on the steps, but the camera misses it. Gail hits a middle rope eat defeat to win. God bless her. I wish her nothing but the best in retirement. She's had a hell of a career. This was a very boring match.
Dude, she wins the title in her retirement match, and it's to the back. What could be more fitting than this?
Hey, Impact never changes.
They announced
the same show.
Her big retirement ceremony or whatever is going to be on the TV show, not the show you paid $34.95 for. And what did surprise me was Chef Robert Irvine is usually always there for her big matches. This was allegedly her last match ever, and she won the title. He was nowhere to be seen.
No.
That was sad. Where the hell is he? Cooking?
I guess so. Maybe he catered the show.
It could have been. Well, he should have been there then.
We had Dan Lambert giving American Top Team a pep talk.
Highlight of the show.
Actually, his next one was the highlight of the show.
Oh, I see.
But yes, Dan Lambert was awesome. The announcers are killing time for a bit. Out walks Jimmy Jacobs. I love Jimmy Jacobs. I'm a huge Jimmy Jacobs fan. He got zero reaction here.
This was the second time. Like, he appeared at the end of that Ring of Honor show. Like, it was going to be the big pop at the end where the Bullet Club's going to take a selfie, but, like, no one has a phone. And a fan stands up with a phone for the selfie, and it's Jimmy Jacobs.
Uh-huh.
And it eventually did get, like, a big pop, but when he first stood up, I could just feel like they're expecting this to just, like, blow the roof off the place. It's Jimmy Jacobs coming off being fired for taking a selfie with the Young Bucks.
Yes.
But instead it was just like, people kind of cheered a little bit. And then they sort of cheered a little bit more, and then they took the picture, and they cheered a little more, and then it was it. It was not anything near what I expected. Here he comes out, and it's just like, everyone looked at him.
So he goes over to the announce desk. They did some terrible improv comedy, and he left.
Well, they said, you don't work here. And he says, that's what you think.
The announcers, by the way, was Jerry Borash and what the hell is Josh's last name?
Josh Matthews.
Matthews.
They're buddies now again.
Yeah, they had
All that
year-long feud.
storyline. Yeah.
On this show, on the whole, they were generally pretty good. I will say that.
Well, Borash is always good.
Yeah.
Matthews is fucking horrible when he's doing the gimmick. But when he was just...
He's just being an announcer.
When he was just being an announcer, he was fine.
Yeah.
Now, of course, he'll tell you he's the best in the world.
I've heard that.
He's nowhere close.
No.
But he was fine.
I don't think he was the best on this show, to be honest. But
he wasn't. He was the second best.
But they were a fine team.
On a two-man team.
There were moments here, especially in the main event, where the crowd was so dead they could not elevate it, and they got dragged down by the lack of energy. But on the whole, they were much better than anyone on Raw or SmackDown.
It is a better announced team than... Well, I still think that Corey Graves is good. But in general, they were a better announced team than any of the announced teams in WWE. Although maybe the NXT team. The NXT team.
That's why I said Raw or SmackDown.
Okay, yeah. Raw and SmackDown, you're right.
So then it was time. The video package for Lashley and King Mo versus Moose and Stephan Bonnar featured the real star of Bound for Glory 2017, and that is Dan Lambert.
He was the best promo on this entire show.
Unbelievable.
He was one of the better promos in all of wrestling.
He went from point to point to point about how this is all what they started with. The circus of pro wrestling started trying to bring his athletes from his sport of mixed martial arts into. Now they picked a fight. Now they're going to have to finish it. We didn't want this. He says, you started this. And we're not afraid. We're going to finish this. But it was all about what badasses Lashley and King Mo are. And they got Stephan Bonnar on their team now. Like, they think that's going to make a difference. We're not afraid of Stephan Bonnar. This was the best.
You know what was awesome about it was when you see all these promos in WWE and NXT, I mean, Jimmy Jacobs would write promos, but, I mean, he did an interview and talked about how he would get frustrated because he thought, God, I could cut all these fucking promos better than all these guys that are reading my promo that I wrote for him.
Hell yeah.
Dan Lambert wasn't just a guy. Dan Lambert is a fan. He's been a longtime fan. Like, longtime fans of pro wrestling, they can cut pretty good promos because they understand how to cut a promo from watching a lot of great promos. They don't go to the Performance Center and go to promo fucking class and get retrained and have shit written for them. Even a lot of wrestlers today still, like, not in WWE, they still fall back on all the WWE cliches. Each and every one of you. How many fucking promotions do I have to watch where somebody has to go, each and every one of you? Who says that in real life? Nobody. It's like a WWE thing that indie guys have picked up on. Dan Lambert probably watched a shit ton of Dusty and Flair and God knows who else. He came on here and he fucking cut an amazing promo. He was great.
So as noted, it was King Mo and Lashley versus Moose and Stephan Bonnar in a cage match. 3 MMA fighters and a football player doing pro wrestling. This is wacky.
You know what it was? Sloppy.
Well, it was in fact very sloppy. Bonnar comes out. Well, Bonnar and Moose come out, and Moose's brother is apparently a rapper. So he's doing the rapping. It's the Moose songs. Everyone's doing the fist pump. And we had this guy rapping and Moose dancing and Stephan Bonnar dancing.
Stephan Bonnar was way better here than he was at the show that we went to at the convention. Granted, he didn't do much there.
Where he ran out and choked out one guy for real?
And nearly killed him, yeah.
You're right. He didn't actually kill anyone on the show.
He was better here on this show.
That said, whatever charisma he had in UFC...
Oh, there's nothing here.
It's gone.
No.
It is not translated. Maybe he got lost at the border. I don't know. He was just a tall man doing moves.
Well, the problem is he's busy concentrating on trying to have a decent match.
I guess.
So he has no time to worry about his own charisma. He's thinking about something else.
Yep. So you had 4 dudes brawling in a cage match. The funniest thing to me is that the whole point, the story of this match was we're going to build and tease and finally deliver the King Mo Stephan Bonnar showdown. And when it finally happens, Josh is like, this is a dream fight. And I thought, it is?
It's not a dream match.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying.
It's not a dream match. It's funny because they had a fake grappling match.
The build, yeah.
And it wasn't bad. It was
the
actually...
payoff was worked MMA.
It was a worked... It wasn't even MMA. It was like grappling. They just did nothing but grappling. Okay. I don't even think anyone threw any shots, but
sure.
They had a fake grappling match. It wasn't bad, but the announcers had no idea what was going on. And the fans who were watching through a fucking cage had even less idea what was going on. And so it did not work at all, which was too bad.
Pro wrestling fans are often not MMA fans, and these pro wrestling fans... Well, I'm not sure they were pro wrestling fans either, to be honest. Regardless, this spot they built up to, it did not work that well. We had, 4 big, strong, scary dudes doing a lot of sloppy stuff. Many power bombs into the cage. Bonnar out there just desperately trying to make sure he didn't fuck anything up. Mo busted himself open somehow, but he's King Mo, so he didn't care. Crowd was bored, chanting for GSP, because at least he's a Canadian. They know that guy. During the big MMA, the grappling battle of Bonnar and Mo, you had Moose and Lashley just lying there pretending to be dead for several minutes because it's a cage match. They couldn't even roll to the floor. So finally, the American top team has had enough. They unlocked the cage, and they all hit the ring to attack Bonnar.
Excuse me, they unlocked the cage?
They did.
What the fuck? All of a sudden, the ATT just opens the door and gets in the cage.
Well, the three keystones of MMA fighting are striking, grappling, and lockpicking.
Apparently.
So, yeah.
They just opened the damn door and got in there. I was like, who gave him the key? Why?
Where did he get it?
What the fuck is happening here? They just got in there and ran roughshod.
And they ran roughshod for a while. Moose ends up outside the cage running wild, but they cut him off and then lock him outside the cage.
That's right. They can open the door and lock it.
Yeah. So now it's Stephan Bonnar by himself against like 6 dudes. And he's trying to do like Muay Thai knees without killing anyone. And they're just cutting him off. Moose, who as they noted is 6'6" and 299 pounds. And even your wife was like, they can't just say 300.
The same thing they did with The Undertaker.
That's true.
Undertaker did not want people thinking he was 300 pounds.
Aha.
It was 299.
I see.
Yeah.
So Moose did a dive off the cage under 2 dudes, which was insane. And then he went after Lambert, chasing him in circles around the ring because it's a cage, there's nowhere else to go. And Lashley hit a spear for the win. A total mess start to finish.
But you know what? This was my second favorite match on the show. It had a fun little story. American Top Team are one of the best heel acts in all of wrestling. They were great heels. I had fun watching this. I mean, it was. I'm
going back over. I can't really argue. I don't know.
No, it was fun. I mean, it wasn't like a great match.
As far as being my second favorite match in the show,
it was a fun little story. I mean, there was the lock thing, which didn't make any fucking sense whatsoever. But I mean, if you presume that somehow Dan Lambert like picked the ref's pocket and got the key or something like that, I mean, if you make sense of them getting in, I mean, they got in there. It was a numbers game. They locked out Moose. Moose did his dive in. Still a numbers game, and they got beaten. I liked it.
The only other match that may have been the second best match in the show was the 6-man. This is better than everything else.
With Pagano?
Well, see, there you
Get
go.
the fuck out of here.
Okay. Johnny Impact got a staticky promo. Talking about all the sacrifices he had made to get there, including the carbs he had not eaten. He has his 2 pro heroes growing up with Randy Savage and his dad. And after Bound for Glory, he knew his dad was going to tell him it was still time to go to law school.
That was the fucking funniest line of the show. Can you believe that line made the air? I mean, can you imagine? My dad's going to watch this show, and his first reaction is going to be, there's still time to go to law school.
Change careers.
Jesus.
Yeah, this was not a Johnny Mundo promo.
No.
That was sad. Eli Drake versus Johnny Impact.
Listen, in a vacuum, they had a good professional wrestling match until the end. But nobody cared, and it was boring.
Does not feel like a match for the heavyweight championship of the world.
No.
Did not feel like I was watching the two best wrestlers on the show, frankly.
This felt like an early prelim match.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with it. We had a lot of interference from Chris Adonis. He interfered right in front of the ref, not a DQ. The belt gets in the ring, not a DQ. Drake swings the belt, not a DQ. Johnny swings the belt, not a DQ. Johnny hits the impact elbow, which is I don't know.
I'll tell you what it is.
He has a flip and does an elbow.
It's called a side summy, where if you run forward, instead of doing like a front flip, you actually do a side flip.
Okay.
It's an old gymnastics move. It's like it's a really creative idea to do a side summy off the top rope into an elbow. But, like, in execution, it does not look devastating at all.
So, none of this was the finish. There's like 2 or 3 guys desperately trying to start a chant. Any chant. They chanted for Johnny and no one joined in. So they started chanting for Eli. Like, maybe this is to get the crowd going. It failed. And then Johnny hit Starship Pain, which was the end of the world in Lucha Underground. But there's Alberto to yank the ref out of the ring. That's when it hit me. This is every fucking TNA main event ever.
This
may as well be Jeff Jarrett and Monty Brown.
I couldn't believe there wasn't like a guitar involved. Guy pulls a guy out of the ring. Ref takes a bump. Interference. Every fucking main event ever in Impact history was this one right here.
So in the main event of the show, main event of the biggest show of the year, a guy who was not wrestling the show destroys both men in the main event, puts one on top, and the ref counts 3. And that's the finish to the main event of the biggest show of the year.
And the thing was, like, the fans they were chanting yes, yes, yes whenever Alberto did anything.
Yes, he was the biggest hero.
He finally got a little bit of heat, but, they were still behind the guy. And, he threw Drake on top and they really booed that because they didn't want Eli Drake to win. But, God, it was just like every main event. I couldn't even believe it. Trying so hard. They're trying so hard to get away from what they used to be, but they can't.
Never get away. So there we go.
And then
there's more.
Goes off the air. Ref counts to pin. Drake beats Impact. And the show just quickly goes off the air because they're running out of time. And the last thing we see is a black screen, and it says, match up graphics.
Right. That happened.
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, that was Impact. Maybe we don't have to watch it again for 2018.
I gotta say, it's probably a thumbs down show.
I don't feel a need to turn in Thursday, I can tell you that much.
I have no desire to change Thursday Night Potpourri to the Impact review.
I will take my chances.
Yeah.
With a random grab bag.
Every now and then, maybe we'll watch an Impact show, but I'm gonna keep it with the Potpourri.
Not for a while.
I need some fun stuff in my life that I enjoy, in addition to everything else. The show is not about suffering. Do you hear me, everybody? I know you enjoy it when Vinny and I suffer. We can't do it. We can suffer here and there. Cannot suffer every week. We're too old for that shit now.
That's correct.
I'm a father.
Everybody's up their game, I think is the way, WWE is to a degree up their game. A lot of people won't say that, but they really have this year. New Japan's up their game. Ring of Honor, I can't say angle-wise they've up their game, but popularity-wise they have, and they have a lot of talent. You get the Will Ospreys and people like that are there. But a lot of the indies have really upped their game. In TNA, it just feels like that they haven't upped their game at all.
Well, here we go. The show opened up with Trevor Lee, Sanjay Dutt, Garza Jr., Desmond Xavier, Matt Sydal, Petey Williams, X Division title.
This was good. This was a fun match.
Yeah, the good news is they let their X Division guys do X Division style matches. They don't have to work slow-paced chin-lock matches like the heavyweights.
Yeah, this was a fun match.
So
Garza, obviously...
That was the one negative. Garza's shoulder is a mess.
Yeah, well, he just had surgery like a couple weeks ago.
This guy should not have been in this match.
No. I mean, I think that he just told himself, you know how some guys just do this, I'm going to be ready on time, but man, he's not even close to ready.
No.
I hope he doesn't wrestle for the rest of the tapings. His shoulders all taped up, and I mean, his arm was almost like he didn't even hardly have any motion in his arm, and he was trying. But aside from that, I mean, you know, everybody, Trevor Lee's such a great wrestler, Matt Seidel's such a great wrestler. It wasn't a super match or anything, but it was a good match.
Bunch of spots, as you'd expect. 6-way suplex, train wreck dive. Desmond with a full twisting tope to the outside. Biggest pop of the match was Petey Williams putting a sharp shooter on Matt Seidel, of all things. And then the same finish as every multi-person match. Petey hits the Canadian Destroyer on Desmond. Trevor Lee tosses him outside, steals the pin. Trevor Lee retains the title. We had Tyson Dukes, Taiji Ishimori. They have Tyson Dukes and Taiji Ishimori in a match, and the entire match is all about showing Laurel Van Ness acting drunk in the crowd and sitting on people's laps. I don't know what happened during this match. There was like, I don't know.
It was just, this was essentially your typical television match where.
Yeah, but we didn't even see 3/4 of it. It was all Laurel.
Yeah, well, I mean, they just wanted to put Ishimori over because I think they're going to do Ishimori and Trevor Lee at TV, maybe even tomorrow. But
why even bother? Like, this was such a waste of time with nothing but shots of Laurel.
They wanted to get Laurel over, you know?
Well, then they shouldn't have done it in a match where they're trying to get Taiji Ishimori over, because it didn't work.
Well, they probably have more on Laurel than Taiji Ishimori right now.
Well, he won with a 450, and what we saw looked good, but we didn't see much.
Yeah, it was just there. Just a match.
We had a meeting with Abyss and Grado. Terrible acoustics. The production on the show was very bad. The audio, at least. Couldn't hear a word Grado said. Abyss promised pain and suffering.
It was really, I heard it was really bad in the building, too, as far as, like, hearing the backstage promos.
I can hear it on TV, so I have no idea how they could hear it on live. So then Grado told him to expect a surprise tonight. Then we had this. Alberto El Patron comes back.
Oh, did this go too long or what?
Well, the thing is, he's got a history lesson, he says. He says, all year I've been hearing, Alberto, you're amazing, you're the man, you're bringing things to the ring we've never seen before. I don't know who told him that. He said, after giving his heart and soul to the company, these cowards screwed him and betrayed him. They believed all the lies, he said. They didn't read the reports. The reports all said he didn't do anything. They still suspended him. If you didn't know what's going on with Alberto, this would have been the most mind-boggling promo of the year.
Well, here's the thing. Realistically, of the people that watched that show, I'm thinking most of them probably did know what happened.
You're probably right. But you don't want to book a show based on the idea that only the hardest of the hardcore are watching your event.
But they are. That is only, I mean.
No, but.
I know what you're saying. But, again, the rules are different in the sense of, like, if they had done this, like, 10 years ago, I would have said, oh, my God. But it's like, I mean, I got it. I think people did get it. But it just went too long. And then the other thing, too, is when you do the thing of, like, why don't you pull the mic or anything like that? And it's like.
Pull it.
Yeah, you can't. But if you do that, you've got to pull the mic within the next 30 seconds or so. You can't have him go on for another 10 minutes.
Well, the thing was, it was weird because he cuts his promo, and obviously he's trying to be a heel, but there are people chanting CCC and all this other stuff, and so, like, I think he figured, I better say it again, because he basically repeated his promo. He starts talking about Eli and how Eli's not a real champion, then he goes all the way back to some liars spreading lies about something that never happened. I proved I didn't do anything wrong. It's going on and on.
Are he and Paige still together?
I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, because she's back at the Performance Center.
Yes.
So and ready to debut back on the main roster whenever they have the spot open.
Then he calls out Borash. Babyface announcer Borash goes over, screaming at him. The fans are chanting for a table. I guess.
Can you imagine? They wanted him to put Borash to a table.
And he threatens him and threatens him and threatens him, and then finally he says, maybe not. And he says it's bound for glory. Tonight's going to be amazing. And away he goes. And this was long.
Yeah. Too long. That's all. It was an idea.
It was an idea. That's right.
I don't think that the idea itself was wrong. They just went too long with it. Yeah.
Grado Abyss Monsters Ball. If Grado loses, his work visa is rescinded. He has to leave the U.S. and apparently Canada as well. So the match was bad. gimmicks, barbed wire boards, thumbtacks. Grado is not a very good wrestler. He's not very coordinated. Has trouble getting on the top rope. Has trouble taking bumps. Doesn't want to take bumps, it looks like, at some point. Abyss goes and grabs Janice, the barbed wire baseball bat gimmick, or the baseball bat with nails.
There's a board with nails, I think.
Yeah. Grado does his dusty comeback. Boots Abyss, who falls on a board. He jumps off the top and lands on another board. Finally,
the sandwich spot. Yeah.
Finally, Laurel Van Ness comes out again, and she gets in the ring. She gives Grado an unprettier. The lights go out. They come back on. Rosemary's in the ring. She blows mist into Laurel's eyes. Abyss grabs Rosemary. He's gonna kill her. She reasons with him. So Abyss grabs Grado. He wants her to blow mist on Grado. She misses. She hits Abyss. He's blind. He chokeslams Rosemary on the thumbtacks. Grado scores a cradle for a near fall. Some geek rings the bell. It's not the finish. Everyone's confused.
Was that bad?
This was the pinnacle here.
Well, I mean, so the bell rings, and because it's the wrong guy winning, Borash basically says that's not the end of the match, because he knows that the wrong guy won, but it came off so bad.
And then Abyss is supposed to give him a black hole slam onto a barbed wire board. It took like 2 tries. Grado didn't want to go up. He didn't want to go down. Abyss slammed him down, just smashed him onto the board, gets the pin. This was a horrible match.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And it's just the beginning of things to come. Too much outside interference was the story of the show. I don't know. I don't know what else to say about Laurel, but I don't know. I don't know what else to say about her.
James Storm, Eddie Edwards, EC3 versus Hijo del Fantasma, Pagano, and Tejano Jr. Dorian Roldan's out there with Team AAA. Story is EC3 doesn't want to tag in. He doesn't want to tag in again. And then finally at the end, for no conceivable reason, he just tags in. He makes a hot tag. Pagano's terrible.
Pagano's terrible, yeah.
EC3's running wild. Kind of one of those baby faces that would prefer to be a heel. He's like Randy Orton in there, but
not as good.
Just clearly does not feel comfortable being a babyface, at least to me. And then finally stacked up superplex spot, bodies everywhere. Phantasma gave Eddie a cradle pile driver on the apron. They're selling it like it's a serious injury, although Eddie is celebrating when the match is over, so much for that. They're doing a GHC title match on Thursday. And then ref is distracted.
Eddie's against Phantasma.
Yep. EC3 double low blow, double 1%er, and then he says, Storm, take his fucking head off. And Storm tags in, super kicks Pagano, gets the pin. It was all right, but barely all right.
The crowd, I think, was into the idea of the promotion versus promotion, but I don't think it was as a match. Like even the super kick finish just didn't really land right. Every time Pagano was in, you're just like, this is bad wrestling and everything. So, just all right, but decent heat.
Then we had an Eli Drake promo, vowed to retain the titles. He's a good promo. We had Dave and Jake Crist versus LAX in a 51-50 street fight for the TNA titles. I mean, it was fun, I guess. They hit each other with all sorts of things. Your typical garbage wrestling match in 2017. Ortiz gave Jake a running powerbomb off the ramp through a table. This was like 2 minutes into the match. And then Santana climbs up onto a lighting rig, squashes Dave with a big splash through a table about 3 minutes into the match. And then they kept hitting each other with stuff, and there was one spot where Jake tried to superplex Ortiz through 4 chairs, but he mistimed it, and he landed on the chairs.
Yeah. Well, he went too far out, essentially.
And finally, Sami Callihan debuted, threw powder in Conan's face, tossed Dave onto a ladder bridge, hit Santana with a pile driver off the apron to the floor, and that led to the finish. Ohio versus everything wins. Sammy's part of the family, and that was that.
So maybe he'll turn on them later. I thought that the crowd liked this match. It was a lot of crazy stuff, but I don't know. It's like I would prefer, like, you did the weapons with the Grado Abyss match, and you come back and do another one. I think that like 2 matches like that on a show is one too many. You could argue one of them on a show is one too many now, because there's something about those kind of matches. I don't know what it is. I mean, I shouldn't knock it because it did get this match did get over. But I just figured that, 2 matches are like that. And this, the second one was the one that got over the best, but it's a lot of repetitive stuff. And unprotected chair shots to the head stuff too.
We had Sienna, Ali, Gail Kim for the TNA Knockouts title. Gail Kim's final match. She's trying to win the title on the way out. They had Anthony Corelli, former Santino, shown sitting in the front row. And kind of a sloppy match. Fans were polite. Gail did this springboard Frankenstein on Sienna. She was sitting on the top. Sienna hit Ali with a fallaway slam off the top. Slammed Gail onto Ali. And finally, Sienna dropped Ali over the top to the floor, and Gail came off with a top rope beat defeat, got the pin. So in her final match, she won the title, and then they just went to the back.
Yeah, they did. They should have celebrated. They should have stayed on her a lot longer.
Yeah, and to just move on. That was it.
Yeah, it was like they had spent like literally months building that spot up, and they did it. They did the payoff, and then they were gone.
Jimmy Jacobs debuted, came out, went to the announcers. They said, "You don't work here." And he said, "That's what you think." And then he left.
Yeah, that's weird, him being on the ROH show pay-per-view and then the Impact pay-per-view like right after.
Yeah. We then had the best thing on the show. Dan Lambert cut a promo setting up the 6 Sides of Steel match. This guy is a tremendous promo.
Absolutely.
He was the best promo on the entire show. And it's great. He's got a great crew, this American Top Team.
Great bullies, huh?
Great, just a great heel act. This match, Lashley and King Mo versus Moose and Stephan Bonnar, 6 Sides of Steel. I mean, you got Stephan Bonnar in there. King Mo's not really a full-time wrestler, obviously. Lashley and Moose. I mean, there was just tons of interference. It was preposterous. Like, at one point, ATT just opens the door. They just opened the door and went in. I was like, how'd that happen?
Dan Lambert opened no. The door opened when Moose and King Mo ended up, leaving the cage. So the door's open.
Why'd they leave the cage? How?
They opened the door and left the cage.
The door's supposed to be locked.
Well, they were thrown through. He was thrown through, and then Moose followed him out, I think is what happened. And then they all got in, Covington and the 2 other guys and Dan Lambert.
Hold on.
Yeah.
ATT opened the door. This was before anybody went out. Because they opened the door and just went in there, and then Moose booted King Mo out and goes after him outside, and then they locked Moose out of the cage.
And then they killed Bonnar.
But there was no logical reason why all of a sudden ATT just opened up the door. It didn't make any sense.
I thought that the door opened when they took those guys out.
No, that was afterwards. Wow.
They all went in.
Yeah, they just opened the door and went in. And so they're all just beating up Bonnar because he's by himself. Moose goes up top, big high cross onto the heels. Everybody's down.
He climbs the top of the cage and dives off the cage onto everybody.
Yep.
So he's back in.
And,
but it's still 6-on-2.
Yep. And they're going after Dan Lambert. Colby Covington makes the save. And then Lashley spears Moose for the pin. I mean, there was too much interference, and it was sloppy, but I thought I liked this match. I don't know what it was. It was like a good story. It was basic. The getting into the cage was stupid, but other than that, I thought it was fine. I enjoyed this match.
Okay. I
love American Top Team. They're great.
Yeah, I think it's so hilarious watching Colby Covington out there. He was so controversial and everything, and then he's out there and he's just got that silent role. But he's got he's got that demeanor and everything like that. Just the way he looks and everything. He's pretty good as a heel.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and Dan Lambert's great. And
Dan Lambert's awesome.
Yeah. And I thought it was all right. I mean, for Bonnar, it's like I can't say he did anything good, but he didn't look bad.
He did not look terrible.
Yeah, he was fine. Mo
but
was
zero charisma.
Bonnar?
He was just out there doing wrestling moves.
That's all he could do. When Bonnar, they kept teasing Bonnar against Mo, and every time they would be about to come to blows, Lashley and Moose would break them up. So you kind of didn't expose them, and then finally when they did work, they basically just did basic MMA groundwork, which is what they should have done, and it was all right. Nothing. This match you certainly didn't have a lot of big moves like you had in a lot of the other matches, but I think this match turned out right, and it did have heat. Not great heat though, but it had heat.
And then we had the most amazing promo with Johnny Impact. He says, "I gave up a lot to be here tonight, including carbs."
That was pretty good.
It was amazing.
Yeah, when
he's talking about the two men that he admires the most. One of them is his father.
Well, so he's talking about how he gave up family weddings and going out on Friday nights with his friends and carbs.
Yes,
it was just so Johnny Mundo, It was pretty good.
And he says, "My dad will be so proud of me after tonight." And he had some line about how he's going to be so proud of me that he's going to remind me that it's not too late to go to law school. What a fucking promo. Can you bury this place any worse?
Yeah.
So they had the match, and very basic match early. Chris Adonis kept interfering. And there was a cool spot where Eli tried to whip him into the guardrail. Impact slid underneath, popped up over the top with a flying clothesline.
He slid underneath the guard. How do you do that?
He's very lean. So
I'd say so. And then he came back out with a dive back over from the other side back in.
Heat on Impact forever, and makes a big comeback. Adonis tossed. I'm just going to try and go over this as quickly as possible because 9 million things happen. Adonis tosses Drake the belt. Johnny avoids the belt shot, hits a springboard kick, takes out Adonis with the belt, hits the Impact elbow. Drake kicks out. Johnny hits a Starship Pain. Alberto El Patron pulls the ref out of the ring. Impact tries to dive onto him. He hits the ref instead. Patron hits Johnny with a chair shot. He gets the belt. He lays out Adonis with a belt shot. Throws Impact inside. Throws the ref inside.
That one, the one chair shot, was it the one that he did on
It's his
Johnny?
next one. Breaks the chair over Impact's head.
That one chair shot was, not a good one at all.
Throws Drake on top of Impact. Ref wakes up, counts the pin. This was every TNA main event finish at a Bound for Glory there's ever been in history.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be a new company. It's supposed to be different.
Yeah.
This was the same show.
Yeah. Just too much outside interference, especially coming off of the previous match and the Grado match, and just didn't work for me. When I said the chair shot was bad, I don't mean that it was a bad looking chair shot. I mean it was a brutal chair shot in the sense that he hit him in the head. He just hit him right in the head with the chair.
So there it is.
There was another one earlier, but Johnny got his hands up for that one. But the one that Alberto hit him with was that was a tough chair shot.
Yep.